into number 4, Pep Guardiola. Alright everyone, how are you doing? England unfortunately lost on Sunday to Spain to wrap up our Euro 2024 tournament in the final. 2 consecutive Euro final defeats, and unfortunately for Gareth Southgate, it was too much for him as he stepped down, and now England are looking for a new manager. So I've compiled a short list of managers that are available and what I think of them from all around the world, not just necessarily English managers, as people do forget that you can have foreign managers in charge of different countries. And before we get into that, please make sure to like and subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated, and click the notification bell for content just like this. Let's get into it. Number 1, Graham Potter. Ex-Brighton manager and someone that did so well at Brighton, he ended up getting the Chelsea job in the 22-23 season after Thomas Tuchel was sacked. This was in September 2022, and he only stayed until April 2023, just under 6 months at the club. He had a terrible time there. In fact, it was an absolute disaster, leaving the club in 11th place, and he's been out of a job ever since. So that track record at Chelsea does not sound too appealing to have him as an ex-England manager, but I would disagree. He is English, he's Premier League proven, and also, I believe at Chelsea, he was the right man at the wrong time, with all the big egos that Chelsea have, and all the big money players with such high expectations, and a new manager coming in, it's very, very difficult to hit the ground running. For me, Potter is not my absolute first choice, but he is very high on the list, and someone that I wouldn't complain about if he was appointed as England manager. Number 2, Eddie Howe. English and Premier League proven yet again, ex-manager of AFC Bournemouth, not so much in the Premier League, more across the EFL, also played there in his career as well, but he is more noted for his time at Newcastle ever since this sort of Saudi takeover. In the 22-23 season, he got them Champions League football for the first time in 20 years, also making the Carabao Cup final at Wembley, but they unfortunately lost to Manchester United. But in the 23-24 season, things were slightly different. Newcastle got very unlucky with injuries and a big suspension to big money player Sandro Tonali for betting allegations. And then they got unlucky with all of the different cup draws, including that Champions League qualification, where they got drawn into the group of death, finished bottom, below AC Milan, PSG, and finalists Borussia Dortmund. They also got unlucky in the FA Cup in the quarter-finals, going away to Man City, losing 2-0, and in the Carabao Cup, but losing away at Chelsea on penalties, the eventual finalists once again. Last season, they also finished 7th, not getting any European football because Manchester United won the FA Cup, meaning that Newcastle are without Europe once again, even after this Saudi takeover and all the big expectations on the football club. But I still believe that Eddie Howe is a very good manager and can work with what he's got to bring clubs and potentially even a nation forward. So for me, out of the 2 English managers that we've said so far, Eddie Howe would be my first choice. But there is just one problem. Newcastle United want to keep him, and Newcastle United CEO Darren Eales is confident that Eddie Howe will stay after signing a contract extension last summer, and the fact that if the FA want him as England manager, they will have to pay a pretty big compensation fee. This is a bit of a setback, but maybe England will get past this, pay the compensation fee, and bring Eddie Howe to the Three Lions and take him to the 2026 World Cup. I'm not sure, but he would definitely be the favourite for me. Number 3, Jurgen Klopp. Yes, you heard that right, our first foreign manager on the list. And not just foreign, but German. We know England's relationship with Germany, and let's just say it's not a nice one. But when it comes to management, you don't always have to manage the country that you are from, even if it is the arch rivals that are England. Klopp is currently out of a job and has said he ran out of energy in leaving Liverpool last season. It was very emotional for him and the club, and I do think that he will miss the game if he's out of it for too long. So I don't think he'll go back to a club, but I could see him in international management and potentially could take England to the 2026 World Cup. I've always thought that Klopp after Liverpool would go to the German job, but with them having Nagelsmann, I don't think it's 100% necessary for Germany to get a new manager. Another country that want Jurgen Klopp is the USA, but then getting grouped in the Copa America, I think he would much rather choose England than the USA. Also, taking into account the young squad that England have with the likes of Cole Palmer, Kobbie Mainoo, Jude Bellingham, just to say a few, and one that he can work with, as we know Klopp is very good with young squads and bringing up young talents like he did in his time at Liverpool. For me, Jurgen Klopp has been one of the best managers the Premier League has probably ever seen. He's won the Premier League, he's won the Champions League, he's won the FA Cup, he's won the Carabao Cup. He has won it all. And going into international management, he can set himself a new challenge in trying to win either the World Cup or the Euros, or maybe even both. Hopefully, if he did amazingly get this job, he could use these talents and take them to the 2026 World Cup and start building a real winning mentality in the England squad, and something that we haven't had since 1966. So the only real problem is that he is German, and if we can get past that and appoint him as England manager, I think it would be a great move and something that we would appreciate in years to come. He is not absolute first on my list. I would really like to have him, but he's definitely a thought to have for this England job. Going into number 4, Pep Guardiola. That's right, you heard me, Pep Guardiola. Treble-winning Manchester City Pep Guardiola, Spanish manager, probably, no, you know what, definitely the best manager in the world right now. He's unreal. What he's done with Man City, yes, they've got the money, yes, they've bought the players, but he has turned them into an absolute machine. Winning 4 Premier League titles in a row, 5 out of the last 6. That is just something you can't really argue with. He's won their first Champions League in a treble as well. And someone that if he got that England job, even though he's Spanish, even though he's foreign, would completely change the game. Guardiola has spoke about going into international management before. He's mentioned Brazil. He wanted to manage the Brazil national team. And I think if he was given the offer for the England national team, he would definitely have to think about it. Having the chance of winning something that he's never won as a manager, a World Cup or a Euros. The FA have said that he is not exactly first choice on the list, but is a very strong candidate to have as potential England manager going into the 2026 World Cup. But he'll only be available from the end of the 24-25 season, when he is said to leave Man City after such a long reign and such a successful time there. So that means if Pep Guardiola was appointed, we would be without a manager for about a year. And that is where under-21 England manager Lee Carsley comes in. Lee Carsley, manager of the England under-21s, and someone who won the under-21 Euros in 2023, beating Spain in the final 1-0. He is someone that is highly thought of by the FA, and definitely someone who could take the England job after Gareth Southgate stepped down on Tuesday. However, it wouldn't necessarily be long-term, considering Lee Carsley may come in for only a year as an interim manager and then get Pep Guardiola in for 25 to take the team to the World Cup in 2026. This may be a bit harsh if Lee Carsley is doing really well, but it's definitely an option to have if we were to go in for Pep Guardiola. But if we were to take him on long term, it is important to note that Southgate also, before becoming senior boss, was manager of the under-21s throughout 2013 to 2016. And Lee Carsley was also approached by the Northern Irish national team to become head coach, but he turned it down to stay with the under-21s. This shows that countries do actually want him, but he's happy in his time at England, maybe waiting for that big call-up to the first team. So for this one, I'm a bit tied. If he only came in as an interim manager, then I guess it's not really a problem. He'll only play in the Nations League games and probably a few World Cup qualifiers before Pep Guardiola or someone else comes in. But if we did keep him permanently, I don't really think it will be a problem either. Gareth Southgate, as I say, managing in 2013 to 2016 as under-21 manager. I'm sure Carsley could do the same. But at the same time, it could also be a car crash in something that under-21 football is very different to senior football. It would probably be a bit of a gamble to take him straight from the under-21s to the first team, but definitely worth a try, and someone who is definitely on the cards. And our final option is Mauricio Pochettino. Yes, Argentinian manager Mauricio Pochettino worked with Southampton, Tottenham and Chelsea, not winning a trophy at any of those English clubs. But his most remarkable feat, making it to the 2019 Champions League final with Spurs, where they lost 2-0 to Liverpool. However, after this Champions League final, I think things started to go downhill for Pochettino. Going to Chelsea wasn't an overly great move in the end, passing ways with them at the end of last season. And now, a potential job in the England setup, he could rejoin with one of his old members of backroom staff. Yes, that's right, one of the old members being FA Technical Director, John McDermott. Someone who he worked closely with at Spurs and he could rejoin with in the England setup going into the 2026 World Cup. But FA Chief Executive has said that they would prefer an English manager, and I know Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, who I have mentioned, aren't English, but at least they are serial winners, and coming into the team, you would have a bit of confidence in them. Mauricio Pochettino hasn't even won a trophy in England, so it would be a bit of a gamble taking, first of all, a foreign manager, and second of all, a manager who's never even won a trophy in the 3 English clubs that he's been at. Okay, Southampton would have been a bit more hard, but Tottenham and Chelsea in the time he was there, not winning a trophy isn't all that great. And those are all the England managers that could potentially take over before the 2026 World Cup. Going back through them, we've had Potter, Howe, Klopp, Pep, Carsley, and finally Pochettino. Let me know who you think the next England manager should be down in the comments below. It shouldn't be any of the ex-players, by the way. I think that goes saying for itself. Do not have anyone like Wayne Rooney or Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard. Absolutely no way. I know Gareth Southgate was an ex-player, but he proved himself in being a pretty good coach. All 3 of these have had their opportunities. No, thank you. Just had to get that off my chest. And let me know what you think the next England manager should be down in the comments below. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe and click the notification bell, as mentioned before, so you never miss an upload. Thank you very much for watching, and by 2026, football would have hopefully come home.